Okay, thought I'd wear my crazy shirt today. The one I got for $3. I got two of them. How could you pass it up for $3? It's kind of crazy. It's got... yeah, unfortunately, it's one of those shirts that, like, 60 or 70-year-old men in pool halls wear. I am definitely not one of those. Never gonna be. By the way, since I practice what I preach here in the other room, I've got about 45 ducks that are very soon to hatch out, but right now let me turn the sound on. You can see them there. Yeah, cute little suckers. They're called Emden geese, and they're hatching out right now. They're cute little suckers. I've been talking to them, and they're from my friend's farm, and there's a place there for me at my friend's farm, the people that moved up from Florida. And of course, I got a cabin in the woods, and I know a lot of my videos, most of my videos, let's be honest with each other, is me sitting behind this desk. You know, talk is cheap. And I can't stand mere talk. There are people that just flap their lips, and there are people that don't really say anything. And the only time I'm ever talking is actually when I'm sitting behind this desk. I mean, I am not a talker. I don't like to talk. I like to be deeply embroiled in extremely deep thoughts, and/or writing, or translating, stuff like that. So it's unfortunate that nearly all of you, your only interaction with me other than live stream, which I was on live stream for like 3 hours yesterday, is these videos that, well, this guy's always sitting behind his desk and he's flapping his lips. But I really do make it happen, and I don't believe in mere talk. I want to talk about something incredibly important. It's a preparation plan, one that I put up, and I'd like to hear your input, if any, and I want to tell you what I've done. And a couple of hard targets to avoid, and some things you probably haven't considered, because I've put my money where my mouth is, what very little that I've got. And there's that old saying, put up or shut up, and that old saying, talk is cheap. And I'm firm believers in those. People, well, they sit back and they'll, like, drink a cold one with their buddies, and all they do is talk. They never actually do anything to just flap their lips. Well, you're never going to see me drinking a cold one, and you're never going to see me at the pub, and I'm not a lip flapper. I mean, I do that in these videos, but that's not who I am. I sold everything not glued down several years ago. I've known this is coming for a long time. When I talk about independence and asset diversification and just some things to consider, I don't pretend to give anybody any advice except on, like abstruse metaphysics, really super serious reading material that'll, vastly improve you or, younger folk or whatnot's understanding, and a few other things, obviously so. But I've always been involved in this most of my life, been an outdoors person, spent a lot of time on my grandfather's farm. I used to be a concealed carry instructor. I used to give marksmanship lessons. I used to be the head bow and arrow guy in Kentucky. I can literally say the head, the number one, not in Louisville, nowhere, the number one archery guru in Kentucky. I could literally say that. For a period there of like 6+ years, I was the man. I even made custom bowstrings, gave archery lessons, so I've always been into this stuff. There's a lot of stuff that I can't make videos about, at least not on the tube, that I'd like to. Things that I actually know a lot about, but so what, that being the case. Before actually getting to the main content of this material, I want to point out a couple of things that are actually happening. Auto loan delinquencies are absolutely off the Richter scale, so are credit card delinquencies. I've talked to people I know in the police department and say, well, it's anecdotal. It's not anecdotal. It's kind of happening everywhere. I'd like to point out an incredibly important statistic here in a second. Home foreclosures. By the way, when you know the staples that your common person is having serious issues with, and I don't drink Starbucks and I don't eat McDonald's, But the only reason anybody ate McDonald's is because it was super, super cheap, not because it was good food. It was never good food. You could argue with me about that, but even, the people that have no money that used to buy food there, which is way too expensive now, they're suffering horribly, and I couldn't care less, honestly. But it's a marker for something really important. It's a road sign. Same is true of Starbucks. They're actually in a panic. They're running around, crying havoc, and that this is the end of the world for them financially because people, the things you cut back on are a super expensive coffee, especially burnt coffee, and no one's, they're suffering there. All the little things that people took for granted, I mean, these chains are suffering really bad, and every indicator says that's the case. I don't know if you know this or not, but the FBI and the government's bragging that crime is down. Well, it's the opposite of down. It's actually way, way, way up. Crime is skyrocketing. From 2020 to 2022, crime reporting to the FBI fell drastically. The crime reported to the FBI. They're reporting the FBI, which, you should never trust them. They're one of the arms of the government. Fell by 2%. But the actual reporting from the National Crime Victimization data shows a 42% increase during the same period of time. So the FBI says 2% down, but actual reporting shows it's 42% up. But it's actually way, way higher than that because a lot of stuff, as you very well know, is not getting reported at all. Just one city. Well, that's New Orleans. No, this is happening a lot of places. I experienced it recently when my truck was broken into. The average 911 response time for New Orleans is now over 3 hours. Average 911 response time. This is what anybody that doesn't believe in having tools for their own protection, I mean, what are they going to do? They say, call 911? It's like, oh, sure. The average wicked encounter, I'm going to call it, it's actually a lethal force encounter, is less than 30 seconds. So please hold on a minute here before you do anything to me. I'm going to call 911, which of course nobody would obey that. And then what? You're going to wait another Since 2021, 30% of police departments have stopped reporting crime data to the FBI. An investigator of the FBI's records show that the records that are being sent to the FBI on crime, they're being drastically underreported. And this, of course, has a nefarious purpose behind it. I don't need to get into that. We all basically know what it is. A lot of rich entities and people that are behind this, by the way, working off the premise of when there's blood in the streets and there's financial blood in the streets right now. This is that's the time to pounce, and this, of course, is what they want. I want to make a short preparation plan here, things that I've done, because I'm not a lip flapper. I mean, I am a lip flapper in these videos. I mean, that's demonstrably obvious, but I spent a lot of time in deep thought, rational, logical thought, and tell me what you think. These are the things that I have done. And you have to see the future to a certain degree. You can actually see the flow of everything. You don't need to know all the details, but if you can see the flow, then you can make a generalized, super accurate prediction. And a lot of people are too late to jump. It's like, well, I don't know all the details yet. It's like, if I can see A, B, C, and D, then I know that this is going to happen. I may not be 100% accurate on what's going to happen, but I am 100% accurate on the generalization of what I know is going to happen. And evil, by the way, always takes the path of least resistance, something that I've never heard anybody talk about, but I've contemplated on many different levels, is that you need to be a hard target fundamentally to a few different entities, but really only two. A hard target to the government. There's a way to be a hard target to the government. I'd like to talk about that in a second here, but also, too, to be a hard target to nefarious neighbors. I have a cabin in the deep, deep woods, and I have land spread out all over Kentucky. One of which is very nice with literally, and I do mean literally, 11 feet of topsoil. It's incredibly fertile. I have plans within plans. I know that, I think that's a line from a movie, but I do have plans within plans. And you need to be a hard target, and I put up several layers, technically 3 layers of security, both inside my house, outside my house, cameras, passive security, and active security. But that's here. I mean, the first place that I'm going to leave, you know, when things get really bad. Things actually get bad slowly, and then they get, always has been in the past, they get bad really quickly. So I have plans for that, including go bags and things that I know I'm going to take. And of course, my cabin is stocked, but the important things here, we're just talking about food and stuff down there. But I have people actually always watching it. A neighbor of mine, we're on the same page on a lot of stuff. And let's be honest here, none of us, and nor am I talking about fleeing a 3-headed monster here and what's actually going on in the shutdown of the world. But we might as well be. I mean, it's going to be a slow roll shutdown to major disruption and reset, and things are going to roll quickly. When enough people reach critical mass of their weak, low information, lack of intelligence, and it even dawns upon them. There's some old saying about even the hardcore disbeliever eventually comes to a realization of belief when the 800-pound gorilla of facts and truth and reality is firmly squatting on that person's head. And there's going to reach a critical mass like that here soon, unfortunately. Independence is really 5-fold. I've thought about this a million times every way possible. One, of course, is food, non-perishable foods, and I have a list below in the descriptions. I think my list, by the way, on prepping foods is better than any list that I've ever seen. I've thought about it and written it and rewritten it many, many, many countless times. So food. Number 2 is income. Income can be several different things. It could be regular income, and I don't confuse money with assets. I mean, that's a common mistake everybody makes in confusing those two types of income. I just did a trade. I should have brought it in here. It's this I did a trade with a buddy of mine for a buckskin, and I just sold off 2 buckskin bags that I made. Very proud of those. I just did a trade for another buckskin in this super gigantic, it's called fur-on cowhide. It's about 8 feet wide and 10 feet tall, and it's mostly white with black spots in it, and it's got long fur on it. And it's perfect as a rug, it's perfect as a blanket, essentially indestructible. I mean, I did bartering 3 hours ago for a gigantic fur-on cowhide and some buckskins. So, you know, there's many ways to approach income. So food, income, home and land. I have a home here, it's paid off, but, you know, when things get dire, the only way you're safe in the city is if your lead outlasts your neighbors. I hate to say that, but a retreat point is land. Land actually offers so many opportunities that most people never consider. It feeds you, it clothes you, it keeps your dwelling warm. I mean, even if you only have a storage container with like spray foam insulation on the inside, you got a hole cut in the roof and a $500 used wood stove. I mean, that's way better than a lot of our ancestors had in the early days. I'm not saying that that's an ideal way to live. I'm not saying that at all. But survival is survival. I have a really nice cabin, and I have other options and places to go to. So land is so incredibly important. The biggest boon I've ever found in my life, period, outside of wisdom, obviously, and understanding, is land. It's land, land, and land. I don't care what you say. You're not going to argue with me. You're not going to trump me on it. You're not going to best me on it. It's land. Oh, you never truly own land because you got to pay property taxes on it We could talk about that until the cows come home, but it is still land. Feed you, clothe you, keep your dwelling warm. You know, if you got trees on it, that itself is a form of money. I've sold trees off of my land many times, so that's number 3. Number 4 is water. I've actually invested in water, and I have a cave with a freshwater spring in it. Very nice. Creeks and ponds, and that's number 4. Along with the land is, of course, heating and trees. The trees equal heating, but the trees also, too, equal money and a type of bartering asset. They always have been. I remember the logger, his mouth was watering over this gigantic white oak tree on the back end of my land. And do you know how much I got for that one tree? I got $2,000 for that one tree. Number 5 is defense. Some places in Europe, well, most places in Europe, let's be honest here, you know, you really don't have the option for defense, and I commiserate with you. You know, maybe you should change the, it's never going to happen. You're never going to change the laws. Let's be honest with each other here. I'm sorry if you don't have that, but the rest of us here in the United States, except for California, Illinois, New York, and New Jersey, have the right to defense. So fivefold independence you need to think about, and I've thought about these aspects and every aspect and sub-aspect of that very deeply. Food, income, or bartering. You know, what skills do you have that is a form of income? Well, you know, I can make you a pair of shirts. You know, I've got sewing machines around here. There's a lot of skills that I have to do things. I can set up solar systems. I'm doing that at my friend's farm. I've already set it up in one room. I got to set it up in other places too. That is also too an asset. Assets are solar panels. My house is full of a lot of solar panels. I absolutely love solar panels, and it's not because I'm a greennik or an activist on the climate. It has nothing to do with that. It's because it is a form of independence. I love solar. So those 5 things. You and I, you need to make a plan for an alternative life. You know, most of you, probably all of you, actually spend 20 hours a week on your hobby or out, you know, drinking a cold one, you know, at the pub or with your friends, but you won't devote like 2 hours a week, which is really all it takes, to thought and preparation, you know, for what's going down. Asset diversification, forms of assets. I've got a list below. By the way, it's in the description. I've got well over 100 pounds, easily. Actually, I've got over 150 pounds of various types of seeds, including sprouting seeds. There's nothing that is a more compact bundle of food. People think it's like, well, it's super lightweight, desiccated, dehydrated food, which lasts 30 years, which is wonderful. I got plenty of that. But it's actually sprouting seeds. You can't live off of sprouting seeds alone, but man, all you have to do is add water and give it a few days. Sprouting seeds provides an enormous amount of food for a very, very tiny package. I have a lot of seeds. I have a supply of lead. I'll let you figure out what lead is a reference to. That goes back, of course, to the fivefold area of independence, that being defense. Alcohol, I'm not a drinker, but it is a form of currency. Every person I know that's made any preparation plans, whether they drink or not, it's a canning material, it's a trading material, it's a form of currency. Always has been, really, and it always will be. Invested in land, invested in water source. I don't know where you live or if you've ever thought about it. I don't think most people have. But everybody I know that's never owned land before that now owns land, they are way happier. And they had no idea until they own the land and they start to realize all the boons and benefits that come about from owning land. I'm sorry, that's just the fact. And you're absolutely in no way, shape, or form going to argue with me on that fact because it's 100% undeniable. I'm sorry, you're just not. The only people that argue with me about it are the people that have never owned any land. And that's just really the way it is. I'm sorry, it's just not up for debate. Anybody that complains about that, they've just either can't afford it, and I get that. I'm not a person, I've only got, what have I got? I got like $4,300 in the bank. I'm not a person of any means. But thankfully I'm able to live cheaply because I don't have a house payment, a car payment, and I don't have a wife or kids. I wished I had a wife or kids. Yeah, but I don't. Tools. Tools to build things and to fix things. Endless. I have a little pile of silver. It's not much, but I do have silver. Gold right now is way too radically expensive. First aid materials. Right next to alcohol, it'd be first aid materials. Nobody ever thinks about that. Almost nobody ever thinks about that. I've been collecting now for years stainless starhead screws, also too nails, high-end nails, but especially also too have a lot of nails to feed my framing nailer, which is my #1 most favorite tool in the whole world, is my framing nailer. Absolutely love it to death, by the way. Yeah, the stainless screws. At my friend's farm, like I said, I just showed you the geese that I'm hatching out. I actually do practice what I preach, and I got like 45 ducks that are going to hatch out here in roughly a week. They're going to start hatching in about 5 days or so. They have, because these things eat grass. Well, not the ducks. They eat, and the geese eat a little bit more than that, but they've got a bunch of cows coming, but right now they have goats and sheep, and there are already some ducks there. The one thing the GOVT, the government, absolutely hates, is anybody that is entirely independent and self-sufficient. Have you ever thought about the fact, like, what are the guys in the GOVT despise the most? Oh, it's total independence. Self-sufficiency. Oh, you're growing your own food? You got your own livestock? Yeah, I'm okay on the front for veggies and meat and beef and poultry and eggs. It's kind of neat the way that works. You hatch these little critters, which is what I'm doing right now in the other room, once again. Hatching these little cute little critters in the other room. Yeah. What they do is they grow up and, they eat worms and other little various sundries, and they make their own little eggs that they plop around all over the farm. And those are really tasty. And then they make more little. You hatch those out and you make more little creatures. Same thing with cows. Cows make baby cows, and those baby cows, and I know it's a lot of work. I do know that. They got a bunch of sheep. Practice what I preach. Anything that I knew had any value at the time, I've seen this coming for years. I sold it off. I'm so glad I sold it off. Anything, redundant things that will be of absolutely no value, I've gotten rid of. I sold it off. Best decision of my life, or at least top 5 anyway. By the way, when it comes to bullion, don't buy pretty bullion. I grew up buying gold and silver bullion. And, you buy this commemorative or limited edition stuff. Bullion is about ugly metal of a high purity content. When it comes to silver, don't buy pretty metal. I recommend buying low premium. Never ever buy American Eagles. Why? The premium is astronomically high. Bullion is just raw bare metal. The only thing you're buying is absolute content and purity, and of course all bullion stuff is either 999 or quadruple 9. Some of it's 5 digits 9, which is ridiculous. Nobody gives a darn about quadruple versus 5 digits of 9. It's not about buying any commemorative or limited edition this, or ooh, I like the design. Never ever buy that stuff. The people that actually stack a lot of gold and silver, they have dirty bars that are covered in dirt, and they're very, very ugly, and they just have a few marks on them. The assayer, the purity, the total weight, like Johnson Matthey, Engelhard, Credit Suisse, Canadian, on and on. I can hear my geese chirping over in the other room. Do you know, it's interesting. It doesn't matter if it's chickens or ducks or geese. When they first start hatching out and peeping, they all make the same peeping noise. Chickens, ducks, geese, quail, on and on. It's always the same chirping sound. Eventually their voice changes, but they all hatch from the egg and start chirping. Same basic tone, exact same chirp. Don't buy pretty assets. You just need to think about these things. I mean, I spent way too much time thinking about this over decades, literally, and I knew this day was coming. I didn't think it'd be coming this quick. But everybody's been thinking about this for a long time, kind of have arrived at that same conclusion. I knew it was coming. Some people actually say, I was expecting it sooner. I was hoping it would be later, but whatever the GOVT says, just do the opposite. That's Now, I'm not telling you what to do or think, but I mean, they don't have your best interests in mind. They, of course, don't. And I recognize the one thing that they hate the most are people that grow their own food, whether that's living food or plant food. They hate self-sufficiency and people that grow their own food. You ever think about why that's so important? They don't want you being self-sufficient. They have a super huge hospital going out in the Hamburg area. Super huge. And I'm just thinking, my God, there's just a future trap to, come in, the doctor's going to diagnose you, he's going to put you on script A, B, C, X, Y, Z. It's just this endless loop. This pill leads to this misery, and that misery leads to a new pill, and that new pill leads to a new form of multiple miseries, which you go back again, and it's just, it's an, it's an endless chain of misery. I started, again, intermittent fasting. I used to do intermittent fasting. You know, my early videos, you can actually see I was actually really skinny. I was about 135 pounds. I started it up again. Fat or skinny, you can't polish a turd in my case, but things are getting a lot closer. The insanity that I see going on out there is absolutely off the hook. And that's not any form of fear-mongering, and it's no form of myopia on my part. It's happening. You got like 60% of the people that are non-college student paid agitators that are being paid by a dark entity. I mean, that's just example 1 of 1 million. I'm not using that as the basis for anything I said in this video. Anyway. If the hatching ducks and geese in the other room aren't proof that I, put my money where my mouth is and that I'm not practicing what I preach, well, I don't know what is. I sold off a lot of stuff that I could have happily kept a hold of, but I sold it off and I bought land. I've always been really, really good at land, thankfully. Really, really good at marksmanship instruction and, a few things like that, and ancient metaphysics and translation. Good at a few things. Got some good skills. Tell me what you think. I read every comment. I hope you have a lovely weekend. Let me know how much you hate my tacky shirt that I got for $3. That's the only reason I would ever buy a shirt that looks like this. The only reason! Thanks.